Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1146B, and today's date is December 7th, 2016, and the title of the episode is, The Elite Are Desperate, Forget the First Amendment, Operation Censorship is in Full Swing. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, at this point, we realize that Obamacare, well, it's a complete failure. Now, I know there's many people out there, especially in the poor lower class where they're getting subsidized. Many of those people don't think it is a problem. Remember, because most of those people, they're not really paying for health insurance. They never had health insurance before. But the majority of the people, it is a complete nightmare. It costs way too much money. It doesn't give benefits. And this does not fit the entire population. It only fits a certain portion of the population. And that means it's not a benefit to the people in general. Because when you put something out there, it shouldn't help a few and penalize the many. And this is what we're seeing. And the Republicans are out there. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is saying their first order of business in 2017 is to repeal Obamacare. Now, the first thing I think they should do is get rid of the penalty and stop making these individuals pay this ridiculous health care tax, because that's really what it is. Because if you decide not to get health insurance because you can't afford it, you are taxed a health insurance tax. And we can see right now, this was done to push people into Obamacare, but it didn't work. Because why didn't it work? Because people don't have jobs. They don't have the funds coming in. We can't afford it. And when the premiums go up 20%, 25% year after year, it's completely out of our reach. And if you actually take a plan and you go to the doctor and you have to pay deductible and reach $5,000 or $10,000, it doesn't help. So people said, okay, I can't afford this. The penalty is cheaper, so I'll just pay that. Many people aren't even paying that. The whole thing is a complete failure. Now, in regards to the recount, Jill Stein, Hillary Clinton, Soros, well, the whole recount thing is really falling apart. We see that they have wasted millions in taxpayer dollars. States are finally becoming so frustrated with the legal process that they're rejecting recount requests. The state of Michigan recount was just stopped after the Michigan Court of Appeals agreed that Stein is not an aggrieved candidate, and therefore the count must stop. Because Stein really received fewer than 1% of the vote there. So why is she recounting? And we can see right now this is happening in Pennsylvania and other areas where it is just becoming way too expensive. But we know the whole plan was to delay the electoral votes, hopefully to keep it out of the system as December 19th approaches. That's 12 days away. And we'll have to see what occurs during that period, because once they say, okay, the electoral votes go to Donald Trump, he is the president-elect, they'll be on to phase 2. And that is protests, riots. Now, it doesn't mean that all these things are going to work. We see many plans that they push forward. It doesn't actually work, but they don't give up. Now, we understand the elite, the shadow government, the central bankers. They want control of many different things. One of them is the creation of currency, which allows them to control governments through debt. They want the control of the flow of information, which they do have through the corporate media. And then there was the internet. And going all the way back, I've always said this, they're going to come after the internet because it's the Wild West. They have no control over it. Now, they tried many different things. Dianne Feinstein Well, she was putting through bills saying that anyone that is reporting on the news, they have to be licensed through the government. Well, that really didn't go through. They tried to do other things where they said these are conspiracy theories. Well, that really didn't work. And now they just came out and said, you know something, this is just all fake. Everything that these people are talking about, it is completely fake. Now they're taking it to the next level. And what they're doing is they're setting up censorship plugins. That's really what they are. Where people can use these and say, okay, this story is fake. I won't go to that site anymore. The next step is to actually block websites. And you'll see that the plugins will completely morph into a blocking app. They won't even let the people get there. And we can see that this is coming. Now what they're doing is they're starting off with the social media, like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and they're stepping up their efforts to remove content. Now, of course, they're going to start off with, we're going to be removing hateful type of content, hate speech. And then we're going to go after also extremist content. And they'll continually expand this until they have complete censorship. And this is what they're trying to do right now, because the elite, they're trying to keep their power. They're trying to block people from seeing other information. Because when you see other information, you say, well, wait a minute. What the corporate media just told me doesn't make sense. This makes a little bit more sense. Let me go research some more. People do research, and they find out that, something is going on here. Now, of course, they don't want people thinking. They don't want that at all. The EU is out there, and they are pushing companies like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube to sign a code of conduct pledge promising the European Union they would work with an unelected EU Commission to sanction and criminalize individual perpetrators of hate speech online. Now, hate speech, what's the definition of hate speech? Saying something that someone doesn't like? Well, that could be hate speech. Fake news? Well, they're just saying that because they're being hateful. And they're going to use this to control the flow of information. And the reason they're doing this is because they lost control. So what these central bankers, what the elite, what these governments are doing is they're violating the First Amendment here in the United States. And this is the first step towards censorship. Now, they created a site called Prop or Not, Propaganda or Not. And they were hoping that they would be able to use this site to have people come to it to say, oh, let me see if this is a propaganda site or not. And, of course, it's completely anonymous. There's no real information on Prop or Not. It was just created in October. The first list came out in November. And Wall Street on Parade, well, they dove into it. They examined Prop or Not. And they found out some interesting things. They found out that its related Twitter page and its registration as a business in New Mexico. And they found out some other facts. Prop or Not has developed a plugin to help readers censor material from the website it is blacklisted. Its official address is 530B Harkle Road, Suite 100, Santa Fe, New Mexico. That's one of those agent addresses that serve as a virtual address for the creation of limited liability corporations that want to keep their actual principles secret. The address has dozens of businesses associated with it. Prop or Not's Twitter page provides a tell. Its tweet on November 7th indicates the research of Peter Pomerantsev, a senior fellow at the Legatum Institute in London, who has also been cooperating on research with the Information Warfare Project of the Center for European Analysis, CEPA, in Washington, D.C. SourceWatch adds that this Legatum Institute is a project founded and funded by the Legatum Group, a private investment group based in Dubai. The Center of European Policy Analysis previously indicated it was an affiliate of the National Center for Policy Analysis. Now we can see why they might want to remove the affiliation, because that's associated with the Koch brothers. And the Koch brothers, they've been exposed as funders of a very real network of interrelated websites and nonprofits. Now, according to Desmog, the NCPA has received millions of dollars in funding from right-wing billionaires like the Koch brothers and the related trusts, along with Lynd and Harry Bradley Foundation. CEPA's Infowar project is currently listed as a related project at Prop or Not website. And we can see that all of this is interrelated. And once again, all of this is being set up by the elite, and they're going through many different associations trying to hide the real people behind this. And we can see right now the entire push is for censorship. Now, we understand that Saudi Arabia is a proxy army for the United States government central bankers, the UK, the coalition forces, and they've been bombing Yemen, trying to get the people to say, "I give, please bring back the puppet government." And we know that the proxy forces, and most of them are paid mercenaries that are fighting for the Saudis, and we know that the Saudis get their funding from the United States government central bankers. Well, they've been bombing schools, hospitals, weddings, because the target is the people of Yemen. They want them to say, "Okay, I give, bring back the puppet government." And a Yemen hospital was hit back in August. There was an investigation saying that, yes, Saudi forces were knowingly bombing hospitals. They knew the target. Now, Saudi, they led their own investigation, and they said, well, that's not true. This was a target, and this target was verified that there were, Houthi combatants inside, and that's why we bombed it. And, of course, we see right now that Doctors Without Borders, NGOs, they're saying, no, their findings are completely opposite. There was nobody in there except for patients and doctors. And we can see right now, Saudi Arabia, well, they're trying to save face right now. Also, we see right now the Houthis, they've created their own government. And the UN, they are pushing their plan on the Houthis to end this civil war, they say. It's a roadmap to help bring peace. Now, the Houthis are saying, we're rejecting this. And the U.S. is out there saying they need to accept this. So we can see right now, if the U.S. is saying to accept this deal, it is not a good deal. Now we see Syria and India. Right now they're discussing enhancing cooperation in the construction field, rebuilding Syria, and they're trying to strike a deal with India at this point. And we're seeing a lot of countries now, well, they want to do business with Syria. They realize that Russia and Syria, they've been pushing the terrorists out of Syria. It looks like at this point that Aleppo is almost liberated, and we can see it's only a matter of time before the entire country is removed of all terrorists. We see that dozens of civilians were killed in an airstrike in Iraq on the border of Syria, and they don't know who actually did this. Now, we know the Islamic State, they don't have planes. We know Turkey has planes flying in the area. We know the United States, the coalition forces, have planes flying in the area. So most likely, it was the coalition forces that bombed this area, and they killed many civilians in this entire area. Israel, they've launched a surface missile. They targeted the vicinity of Damascus airport. And right now, we can see that Israel, the coalition forces, the United States government, they really can't do anything at this point. Syria and Russia, they hold all the cards right now. And we can see that the Syrian army, they've entered 2 of the surrendered districts of Aleppo. The militants are fleeing the area, and they have control of the entire area around the Aleppo citadel. And we can see right now that the whole thing is pretty much over, unless the United States government central bankers are preparing to do something else. Well, the first thing they're doing is they're mulling the idea of more sanctions against Russia and Syria for what they're doing in Syria. How dare you take 70% control of East Aleppo and chase all of our terrorists out of the country? Well, that means we're going to have to sanction you even further. Now, we know that doesn't work. The other thing they're doing is they've brought in ground troops on these 2 ships, the Wasp and the Would-Be. They also have the USS George HW Bush back in the area. Now, they're out there saying that they're getting ready to fly missions to destroy the Islamic State. Really? Well, the Islamic State pretty much is beaten in Iraq and in Syria. So what we have right now in the Mediterranean is 4,000 Marines and an aircraft carrier to give them cover. This, to me, sounds like it's a ground operation invasion either in Iraq and maybe even Syria. And we can see that they're preparing to do something. And we know that these elite, the shadow government, the central bankers, they just don't give up. They still are trying to reach their goal. Because if they truly looked at the situation, they'd know they're beaten, and they would say, okay, the whole thing's falling apart. There's no way we're going to get Syria. There's no way we're going to get into Iran. There's no way we can keep control of the Middle East. We have Trump coming into the presidency. Things are completely falling apart, but they don't see any of this. They only see, let's keep our control. Let's keep fighting. Let's censor the news. Let's control the people on what they're seeing. And if we have to, we'll get rid of the next president. Hey, look, they did it to Kennedy. Remember, they will do whatever they have to stay in power. That's what everyone should be nervous about. That they don't want to give up their authority. They don't want to give up their power. They will not relinquish it easily. And we can see right now, whatever their mission is, they're going to continue on it. They want globalization. They want a war. They want control of the next system. They don't want it blamed on them. But we can see Trump is out there, and he is saying that it's time to end these regime changes. It's time to stop all of this. And he's absolutely right. It is time to stop this. It's time to stop going into other countries and saying, we need to go in here because we need to put your natural resources, oil, on the dollar to prop this system up. So we're going to have war, which will never ever end, to put in a puppet government. We're going to have to kill a lot of civilians, a lot of children in the process to keep the dollar propped up, to keep the elite wealthy, to keep the elite in control. It's time to end all of this. And we can see right now that they're trying to convince everyone that all their policies that they've been doing in the Middle East, well, that's not what's causing terrorism. People aren't angry about that. I mean, are they really terrorists, or are they angry that the United States has come into their countries, completely wrecked their lives, and they're saying, you know what, we're fighting back? But here in this country, Obama was out there saying, you know, all these attacks on American soil, well, it's not from our policies overseas. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with individuals being radicalized inside the United States because they go on the internet and they become radicalized on the internet, online. Well, he didn't talk about the patsies. He didn't talk about the FBI setting up these individuals. He didn't talk about how they have these special op teams inside the United States creating these events. But it looks like they're trying to explain away where all this is coming from, and it's not coming from their policies. And we know most of these were false flag events. They were all planned inside. A lot of these individuals were patsies. Some had mental health problems. This is who the FBI goes after, tries to convince them, supplies everything they need. Even if they don't want to do it, they help them along. And almost every court case that the FBI brought in front of judges, it's been thrown out because it's entrapment. And we can see right now, these individuals, these globalists, they're trying to cover up what they've done. They're trying to continue on with their goals, and they're trying to keep their power all at the same time by shutting down other voices. Listen, everyone. Thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.